And now the real highlights of the day, Álvaro Siza. I was, yes. Two days ago, I was in Ljubljana, and I was really trying, yes, Álvaro, please come. I was really trying to bring to bring Ken at Frampton here, because I know Ken would make a perfect introduction for your work. But I would only quote two sentences, which Ken always quotes you. And one is from the interview to the journalist. You would say, if I'm quoting correct, "We architects do not invent anything. We only transform reality." It's true. Thank you. And the question of the transformation of the reality is really the way in which Kenneth is basically basing his whole critical apparatus in a way in which he looks to architecture and explain architecture, including your architecture. So after being a Pritzker laureate, after being a Royal Institute of British Architects Golden Medal awardees, after being one of the most important architects today, we are more than pleased and honored to have you here in Zagreb for the Days of Oris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with some of my colleagues and to have the opportunity to show some architecture made in Portugal, or better, made by Portuguese architects. And also to have the opportunity to see a little more of Croatia architecture, made now and through centuries. I will present two projects of chapels. One made in Portugal, maybe 10 years ago, and one I hope will be built in Zagreb, or to be more precise, in Zorkovac, I think. The first one, in North Portugal, Minho, you can see here a view. It's inside a farm that was in other times very big. Today has 3 hectares, and in this field is cultivated the wine. And in the end of the photo, you can see the complex built, the old house in the right, and in the upper part, houses that I recuperated before for workers in agriculture, and then a long volume, which is a swimming pool, interior swimming pool, and in left you can see the chapel, which is the pretext for this presentation. And I wanted to point, I don't know if there is a laser here. If not, I can. This is the plan of the farm. Good. Yes. Plan of the farm. There is an entrance street and a door, main door, and then you see a patio defined by a L-shaped house. And there is a wall, supporting wall, and in the high of this hill are the houses recuperated, and then the swimming pool, separated from the houses by a patio, small patio. And in the left, you see the chapel, the volume of the chapel. Entering, you can, through the patio, or in the entrance of patio, go up. It's a two-floor house. Or in the extreme of the patio, you have another stair up. A garage for 6 motor cars, which was in the program. And we made a patio not to expose so directly the garage, which was not very much in the mood of the rest of the constructions. And entering, we can go directly to the chapel, and another way serves the buildings in the top. Or we can go by the other side. So there is a complete circuit. And here you have a garden. The house, this is the L-shaped house, and in this side, a pleasure garden, which was also recuperated. And we can make a walk through this complex. Here is the access street with main door. In the left, on a higher level, you can see the chapel. The front of chapel is turned to the exterior, to the outside. And you can see a volume here, or better, here, which is the sacristy, cantilever room, and coming from the farm, from the house, we have to pass under this cantilever sacristy, go up some steps, and in front of the facade there is a patio, which we call adro in the churches. This is main door from inside, and you can see the beginning of the way going to the chapel in the left, and to the houses and the swimming pool in the right. In the court and against the wall, the supporting wall, there is a Barocco fountain. And you can see in the upper part the volume of the swimming pool, and to the left, the church. This is the Barocco fountain, probably brought from another farm here, which happens many times. Access to the house, and you see the opening to the patio before, like antechamber of the garage. This patio with the front in granite gives, from there we can have another access to the higher level where are the old houses and the new swimming pool. Here is the door of the garage. And access, one of the accesses to the main house, which is a two-floor, 18th century house. Before, ground floor served for storage and for the works of agriculture, and the house was in first floor. Now the conditions are changed, and so we put a succession of rooms, living rooms, dining room in first floor, and down we put the 3 sleeping rooms with baths and rooms also. In the left of this pergola for wine is a tennis playground, which we made, and then the pleasure garden, which you can see here. It was in ruins, but under the land, everything was there. The lines for water, a line of water crosses the ground, which helps so much to understand topography and to understand how to put the pathways. And in the center, small lake, as it was used so much, surrounded by wonderful camellias. This line of water, in part we discovered the granite channels. In part we had to make them, and it goes to a pool, and from there irrigates the area to the right with the vineyards. This is the main axe of that garden. Going inside the house, we have a succession of rooms, as it was used in these times, with doors, one after the other. And the renovation was made in a very integral way, with same materials, wood, stucco, same colors, bathrooms, a new program in for an 18th century house. This is stair going to ground floor, a fireplace with a special marble coming, I think, from China, as almost all of it is coming now. And the kitchen, the old kitchen, with a fireplace that was used to cook, and the modern kitchen in the same room. And now going up to the higher level of the hill, we can see from up the L-shaped house and the landscape. And the ways that were put on spontaneous ways used before in the street. To the right, the houses, and to the left, the swimming pool with the entrance here, and there, inside, is the patio that separates the two programs. And we see how this way is going right to the chapel. Coming from the other side, we can go to the left to chapel, to the right swimming pool with its zinc revestment, and the old houses with a small second floor there, which we recuperated. And before these houses, the demand was for a churrasco. Everybody likes to have in the garden something to make long Sunday lunches with grilled meat. In the way to the passing swimming pool, some interiors of the houses, access to the small second floor, and now access to the swimming pool, which you can see here. These are the houses I mentioned, here the patio, and then the space of swimming pool, and the bathrooms, and the parts of program needed. This is from the interior, the entrance to a lower level, and the swimming pool against two walls with a revestment of azulejum, with ceramic, Portuguese ceramic, ceiling in concrete, and a glass light up that can move, so it can be in opening, completely open. And I could amuse doing some swimmers prepared for mariposa. One wall yellow, one wall in blue. Going on to the chapel, and here is the cantilevered sacristy, which receives light from down, and the stairs access to the patio, the adro of the chapel. The plan is, you can see the adro, the patio, exterior patio, the sacristy, and the rectangle with a door one side and the altar in the other side. And the front in granite, sacristy, and the central door that is closed has a double closure with leather, sliding curtain of leather, a big granite stone which was hard to take up the hill, and carpet, and two side seats. The altar, and to the right, the door to the sacristy, a small window for ventilation and some light, and to the left, traced, taken in the concrete, is apparent concrete, across, which you can see here, close by alabaster panel. From the sacristy to the chapel. Well, description is made And so I speak a little about the church to be built here in a very beautiful area, a rather big farm with an 18th century house again also, and wonderful landscape views. You see, I was here in winter, there was snow in the landscape. This time I could have a different experience. The so simple volume of the house with its interior succession of rooms as the one I showed in Portugal, and the aerial view. And I proposed the house is here, this area with wonderful view, the view I have seen before. And I propose to put the chapel in the side of the facade, main entrance of the house, against a little distant and along an existent way, and near the trees, a massif of trees, so that it is not isolated, and the access will be made by that surrounding small street, pathway, and entering between the trees and the volume of the church. So when we arrive, we see the side wall of the, not the main wall of the chapel. And here are sketches of this situation with the line of trees, and here marked with a cross, the site for church. Some sketches I made in first visit here. The church is not so different in dimension and as concept, not so different from the previous one, apparently, because in fact I think it's quite different. It's another thing in my mind. The dimensions are 13, this volume 13.7 with 8 meters high. I could see in this visit a one-to-one model in the site which helped to get conviction about the project that is already detailed. And also it must be moved a little because the site where to put it is not exactly well. Most difficult thing is how to, the place to decide for a volume isolated in the middle of a big dimension, significant dimension ground. The orientation, the angle with the context buildings, because they are not next to them, they are a little far. So it is difficult to, and gives hesitation and doubts. No problem, as doubts are the best help for architecture, for architects. Here is the side turned to the access street. There is an asymmetric door. This door gives access to the sacristy area. And the light for the altar here comes from down. So the light will come up in the other side of the altar. And what I mean saying that it is so different, in fact, is that sacristy, you will see in a sketch, first I had a different volume, detached volume for the sacristy. But coming here and thinking about and looking to the old house, I understood there should be nothing going out this parallelepiped, this volume. In the interior, you can see here the proportions, more or less proportions, the altar and the cross. Entrance from the interior part, the other side of the trees, entrance and the bench here, and access to the sacristy area. I didn't want to put also something like antechamber out of volume. There is this light protection towards the interior. All the walls are in concrete and ceiling and floor. The cross is not so different of the one I made before in Portugal for a church, which I made with much difficulty. After desisting of the sculptures that I knew there, that I had there, there is a big inhibition respect to do a cross in sculptures and also in this case in the architect. As through centuries, thousands or millions of crosses have been made, and many of them wonderful and famous. And it became so difficult to avoid banality, trying to make a sculpture, a cross, even without the body, because that is another problem. But in this case, as the one in Portugal, with a suggestion of presence of the body. The tendency, more modern, according to this inhibition, to this problem of the cross, is to make more a T than a cross. If we look to Le Corbusier cross and to many others, it became so difficult to accept the complete cross. By the banality it evokes many times. The one that escaped to that was Barragán. Barragán makes a complete cross in Mexico, because the value of that cross is not in itself, but in the way it occupies space and in the way it receives light. So the image itself becomes secondary and banality doesn't appear at all. Here are other studies more in detail, how to organize the entrance and about materials. And some of them reflect the many doubts I felt, and I was happy to have doubts. We work many times putting out ideas we have. It's good we have lots of ideas. It's necessary, but it's necessary also to put out. In a moment, I was thinking, influenced by the visits I made here to the wonderful chapels and churches. You have Romanic churches, and I thought to put a roof. And it took some time to be sure that it was not a good decision. well, in my opinion. Or in this drawing, you can see that the sacristy was outside the main volume, and to make a hole, it had to make an approach to the openings, because that is another thing. How in this essential, so simple volume, put windows. The problem of windows is always a problem which only few could resolve perfectly, as Adolphus or Palladio, which have many things in common. But in a strong volume, to open a hole makes suffer. And Frank Lloyd Wright said how beautiful would be architecture without the windows. In the interior, you see one opening in the right, main door, which has glass. And in this phase, there was a corner door, glass door, which was and then the beginning of the outside sacristy, which was behind the altar. But the decision then was different. If you can see the right dimensions are interior, 590 by, let me confirm. It's not so important, but anyway, it gives an idea of rigor that is 8 by 560, and the high is 8. So, because the walls are rather strong, we have interior 25 centimeters concrete, and then 30 centimeters in stone made by the artisans that exist, working so well here. And the sacristy is in the back, and this is the dimension I mentioned of the chapel. The altar, the window down, which can be seen here in the section. Yes, here. It's done. And the area of sacristy with superior light that gives light to the different divisions there. And this put on a platform with 20 by 15 or something like that. Access the door of sacristy, opening of light. And sketches for the details. There are 2 doors and 1 window and 1 upper light. So few elements that they must be in relation with concrete and stone, very precise and very independent also. It will be in wood, in dark wood, and is already detailed here. And some photos of model. This is the elevation turned to the trees. The trees will be here, no? Along it, we will come. There is a bench and main door and light for the altar. The other side with door for the sacristy. Again, the bench and the main door. A photo from the ceiling to the ground. This is the protection of the main door, the light that comes here and reflects in the probably white concrete, and some other light that comes from the superior lighting here, and then the light that will come behind the altar and going up, reflected or sliding through this wall in the top of space. As you can see here, the cross altar, the light. And here, the facade with main door, and it's finished.
Dear Siza, we can only hope that very soon this magnificent chapel will be built near Ozalj in Croatia. We wish you all the best in a debate about it, and we would like to see this chapel in a line of the chapels which you've been mentioning, a Corbu, a Baragan. Shall we add Tadalandos little pieces in Japan, and of course Sirens perhaps in Jyväskylä. But would you still tell to the public why do you work so precise, so long on such small project? What is the way in which you say, now I'm really sure this is the right decision?
Yes.
No, you are.
Yeah. Well, it depends. But today, most times it must be quickly.
Yes.
Because if we don't make quickly, we have a truck. Happily in this work, I had until now patience to do it.
Time.
So it was a quiet time here, the 3 days, I think I was here first, the talks with the friends here, and with the owner. So it was very quiet, very unusual, I would say. It means it was a pleasure. And that we need that very much, architects, because architecture without pleasure is the worst activity in the world. And here I have good moments.
With these words of Álvaro Siza, that architecture without the pleasure is almost meaningless, I would like to end the Portuguese Days of Oris. I would like to thank all the architects showing to us this magnificent culture of Portuguese architects and architecture. Thank you very much indeed, and we really do hope that all of you would have opportunity to practice here in Croatia. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.